Two people, one city, both trapped in winters with no way out. But one wrong turn on a Saturday morning in the coldest December Portland had seen in years would reveal a truth they shared from 11 years ago, a truth that could save or destroy them both. The question is, what happens when the person you need to save turns out to be the only one who can save you? Before we begin, tell us where in the world you're watching from. We love seeing how far these stories travel. The alarm screamed at 5 in the morning. Daniel Hartwell slapped it silent before the sound could wake Mia. At 35, he moved through the small, two-bedroom house like a ghost, careful not to disturb the only person left who mattered. The kitchen sink overflowed with dishes from 3 days ago. Laundry sat unfolded on the couch where it had been since Tuesday. Mia's toys scattered across the floor like landmines of guilt, each one a reminder of the father he used to be. The father Amanda would have wanted him to be, but Amanda wasn't here anymore. 3 years, 1,095 days since the accident that took her. Since the phone call that shattered everything. Since Daniel Hartwell, CEO of a small family construction company, learned that all the success in the world means nothing when you come home to an empty bed. He opened the drawer by the refrigerator. The letter sat where it always did, unopened for 3 years. Amanda's handwriting on the envelope, written 2 weeks before she died, before the routine surgery that wasn't routine, before the blood clot no one saw coming. Daniel, if I'm not here anymore, don't forget to live. Mia needs her father to be a father, not a ghost. Find someone who can love our baby girl the way I loved her. Don't let grief kill you too. I love you both. Amanda. He'd only read the first line once, never made it past the second. His fingers traced the words through the paper, then closed the drawer. Some wounds you don't touch, you just learn to walk around them. At 7:45, he woke Mia, 6 years old with brown eyes that looked exactly like her mother's. Eyes that hadn't held real light since she was 3. Wake up, baby. Farmer's market today. Remember? Mia sat up slowly, her small face blank. She didn't ask for breakfast, didn't complain about the cold, didn't do much of anything anymore except exist quietly in the spaces Daniel left for her. She'd learned somewhere in the last 3 years that Daddy was too tired for needs, too busy for wants, too broken for joy. So she asked for nothing. The drive to the farmer's market took 20 minutes through streets covered in early December snow. Daniel drove his Ford F-150, 12 years old with rust on the doors and a heater that worked when it felt like it. Not exactly CEO transportation, but Hartwell Construction wasn't some massive corporation. 85 employees, 12 million in annual revenue. A family business Daniel inherited when his father died, right before Amanda. Loss upon loss upon loss. He wore the same wrinkled white shirt from yesterday, jeans with dust from the construction site, boots that hadn't been cleaned in weeks. His office wasn't some glass tower downtown. It was a trailer at whatever job site needed him. His desk smelled like sawdust and bad coffee. His suit stayed in the closet, untouched, gathering dust alongside memories of the man he used to be. Mia sat in the back seat, silent, staring out at the snow-covered city like it was painted on glass. Unreachable. Unreal. What do you want to eat at the market, baby? Nothing, Daddy. I'm not hungry. She said that every time. Had been saying it for 3 years. Daniel knew she was hungry, could see it in how her clothes hung loose, how her face had lost its roundness. But Mia had learned not to need things, not to burden the father who was barely holding on. The memory hit him without warning. Amanda, 3 years ago to the day, December 3rd, rushing Mia to the hospital for pneumonia. The surgery that was supposed to be routine. The call at noon that nothing would ever be routine again. Daniel blinked hard, gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles went white. Mia didn't notice. She never did anymore. 8 blocks away, Sarah Morgan sat on a bench at the Division Street bus stop, holding the last photograph she owned. Her mother's face smiled up at her from Christmas dinner years ago, before the cancer, before the bills, before Sarah's entire world collapsed into 8 months of sleeping in doorways, in 24-hour McDonald's bathrooms, in homeless shelters that never had room. 28 years old, blonde hair tangled around her face, unwashed for 4 days. A coat she'd found in a donation bin, 2 sizes too big. Everything she owned fit in the canvas bag at her feet. A bag that used to hold library books when she worked at Powell's, back when she was a person with a life and a future and a mother who loved her. The tears came without permission, silent, the kind that come from somewhere so deep that words can't reach anymore. The kind you cry when you've been invisible for so long, you forget what being seen feels like. Today was her mother's birthday, 54 years old, would have been, should have been, if pancreatic cancer didn't move so fast, if hospitals didn't cost so much, if Sarah hadn't made the choice that still haunted her at 3 in the morning when sleep wouldn't come. The cheap hospital, the one that cost less, the one where doctors caught the cancer 2 weeks later than they should have. 2 weeks that might have meant everything. 2 weeks that Sarah traded for money they didn't even save. A woman walked past the bus stop, saw Sarah crying, made eye contact for half a second, then deliberately crossed the street to avoid her. Sarah was used to it. 8 months of homelessness taught you fast. You become a ghost, something people look through instead of at. You're the thing they tell their children to avoid. The cautionary tale, the warning sign, but someone was looking. A little girl, 6 years old, walking with her father toward the farmer's market 3 blocks away. Brown eyes wide and aware, taking in everything the adults had trained themselves to ignore. "Daddy," the little girl whispered, tugging on her father's hand. "That lady is really sad." Daniel Hartwell looked, saw the woman on the bench. Instinct took over, the kind every parent has. Protect your child, steer away from danger, keep moving. "I know, baby, but sometimes people need space when they're upset." They were almost past the bus stop when Mia stopped walking, completely. Planted her small feet on the snowy sidewalk with the kind of determination you can't argue with. "Mia," Daniel started, but his daughter had already let go of his hand. She walked toward the bench, toward the crying woman, with the steady, fearless steps of a child who decided something and wouldn't be talked out of it. Sarah looked up, startled. A little girl in a peach-colored jacket stood in front of her, studying her face with the directness only children have. No judgment, no fear, just recognition of pain and an instinct to do something about it. Mia opened her arms. "I think you need a hug. Can I hug you?" Sarah's face crumpled. Fresh tears spilled over, but something in them had changed. She nodded, unable to form words, and the little girl wrapped her arms around her as far as they would go. "It's okay," Mia said softly, patting Sarah's back like she'd seen her mother do 1,000 times before she died. "Daddy says crying helps the sad come out, so happy can come back in." Sarah let out a sound, somewhere between a laugh and a sob. Her shoulders shook as she gently hugged the child back. For the first time in 8 months, someone was touching her with kindness instead of suspicion, with care instead of fear. Daniel stood frozen a few feet away, his throat suddenly tight, watching his daughter, this small person he'd failed so completely, hold a stranger with the same fierce tenderness she used to show him when he came home from work too exhausted to do anything but collapse. Every protective instinct screamed at him to pull Mia away, but something about this moment felt sacred, like witnessing something he wasn't supposed to interrupt. He approached slowly, carefully, sat down on the bench, keeping Mia between them. Every nerve on alert, but his gut telling him this wasn't danger. This was something else. "I'm sorry," Sarah said, pulling back from Mia, wiping her face with her sleeve. "I'm not usually like this." "No apologies needed," Daniel said quietly. "I'm Daniel. This is my daughter, Mia." Sarah managed to meet his eyes, saw something there she hadn't expected. Not pity, understanding. "Sarah, my name is Sarah." "That's a pretty name," Mia said with complete sincerity. Then with the blunt honesty of a 6-year-old, "Why are you so sad?" "Mia, that's personal," Daniel started. Sarah shook her head. "It's okay." She looked down at the photograph, still clutched in her hand, held it out so Mia could see. 2 women at a Christmas dinner table laughing, faces bright with joy. One clearly a younger version of Sarah, the other older, same blonde hair, same warm smile. "Is that your mommy?" Mia asked. Sarah nodded, her jaw tight, fighting another wave of tears. "Yeah, she died 8 months ago. Pancreatic cancer. It happened so fast we didn't even have time to say all the things we needed to say." She touched the photograph gently, like pressing too hard might make it disintegrate. Today would have been her 54th birthday. The words hung in the cold December air between them. Daniel felt something crack open in his chest. That specific kind of recognition that only comes from shared loss. The kind that makes strangers into something else, something more. "I'm sorry," he said. The way he said it made Sarah look at him more closely. There was understanding in his voice. Experience, not empty sympathy. "You get it," Sarah said. Not a question, a statement. Daniel nodded slowly. 3 years now. Some days are easier than others. Most days aren't easy at all. Mia squeezed Sarah's hand. "My mommy went to heaven too. Daddy says she's watching us from the stars." Sarah's eyes filled again, but she managed a sad smile. "What was your mommy like?" "Daddy says she was really good at making pancakes," Mia said. "And she always sang when she was happy. Daddy says I got her eyes." Daniel put his hand on his daughter's shoulder, steadying her as much as himself. They didn't talk about Amanda often. It still hurt too much. But Mia was right. She did have her mother's eyes. The thought was both beautiful and unbearable. He looked at Sarah, really looked at her. Beneath the worn clothes and tangled hair, he could see someone who'd once had a different life. There was education in the way she spoke, careful articulation even through the tears, intelligence in her eyes, dignity despite everything trying to strip it away. "Do you have somewhere to stay?" Daniel asked gently. Sarah's jaw tightened. Pride warred with honesty. She'd been asked this question before, usually by people who wanted to feel better about themselves without actually helping. "Different places," she said carefully. "The shelter, when there's room. Sometimes there isn't room." "What about food?" Sarah didn't answer, which was answer enough. Mia looked up at her father with those knowing eyes that saw too much for 6 years old. "Daddy, she's hungry." "I know, baby." Daniel made a decision, impulsive, possibly stupid, definitely risky, but something about this woman and this moment, in the way his daughter had walked straight to her without fear, told him this was different. This was something that mattered. "Sarah, we're heading to the farmer's market. Would you join us? My treat." Mia never lets me pick the right apples anyway. Sarah hesitated. Every survival instinct she'd developed over 8 months screamed at her to be careful, to not trust too easily. The streets taught you that lesson fast, and it left scars. But there was something about this man and his daughter that felt genuine, real, safe in a way she hadn't felt in so long she'd almost forgotten what safe felt like. "I don't want to be a burden," Sarah said quietly. "Please," Mia said, still holding her hand. "You can teach me how to pick the good apples. Daddy always gets the mushy ones." Despite everything, despite the grief and the cold and the 8 months of hell, Sarah laughed. A real laugh that surprised even her. "Okay, guess I'm an apple expert now." They walked the 3 blocks to the farmer's market together. An unlikely trio. A CEO father barely holding on. A 6-year-old with too much wisdom for her age. A homeless woman holding a photograph of the mother she couldn't save. Mia positioned herself between them, holding both their hands, talking about everything and nothing the way children do when they feel safe. "I'm in first grade. My teacher is Mrs. Patterson, and she has a really loud voice, but she's nice. My best friend is Maya, and she has a dog named Biscuit. Do you like dogs?" "I love dogs," Sarah said. "Damn." And she meant it. "What kind is Biscuit?" "A beagle. He's so cute, but we can't get a dog because Daddy's not home enough." Daniel watched Sarah engage with his daughter. Really listened to her ask follow-up questions that made Mia light up in ways she hadn't in 3 years. There was a patience in how Sarah interacted with children. A natural comfort you can't fake. The kind that comes from actually caring. While Mia was distracted by a street musician, Daniel spoke quietly. "How long since you ate something warm?" Sarah's step faltered slightly. "Tuesday, I think. Maybe Monday. The days blur together when you're trying to survive them instead of live them." She said it matter-of-factly. No self-pity, just stating reality. Daniel felt anger rise in his chest, not at her, at whatever series of circumstances had led someone educated and capable to sleeping on streets, at a system that let people fall through cracks and then blame them for falling. "What did you do before?" he asked, then caught himself. "Before you were homeless?" Sarah finished the sentence for him without bitterness. "I worked at Powell's Books, the big one on Burnside. Inventory, customer service, ran the children's Saturday reading program. A ghost of pride crossed her face. I have a degree in library science from Portland State. What happened? Sarah was quiet for a moment, watching Mia skip ahead to look at a window display of carved wooden toys. My mom got sick. Pancreatic cancer doesn't mess around. It moves fast and it's expensive. I took time off to care for her, used my sick days, vacation days, then started missing shifts because she needed round the clock. Care those last weeks. She swallowed hard. I got let go 3 weeks before she died. Lost the apartment 2 months after that. Couldn't afford it on unemployment, and medical bills had taken everything we had. I tried finding another job, but it's hard when you don't have an address for them to mail your tax forms. When you can't afford professional clothes for interviews, it's like once you slip through the cracks just keep getting wider. Daniel knew that spiral. If not for the family business he'd inherited, if not for his brother Marcus helping with Mia when Amanda died, if not for luck and privilege, he'd done nothing to earn. He could have easily ended up in the same place. I'm sorry, Daniel said, that's not fair. Life rarely is, Sarah said with a slight shrug. Then she looked at him directly. But it's strange. 8 months of barely surviving, and today, on what should be the hardest day, your daughter hugged me. A stranger. And now I'm walking to a farmer's market like a normal person having a normal Saturday. You are a normal person, Daniel said firmly. Tell that to the people who cross the street when they see me coming. Before Daniel could respond, Mia ran back to them, grabbing both their hands with the enthusiasm of a child who'd found something wonderful. We're here. Come on. They have the good donut stand. The farmer's market was alive with Saturday morning energy. Vendors called out about fresh produce, artisan breads, handmade crafts. The smell of coffee and fresh pastries filled the air, mixing with wood smoke from outdoor heaters and the sharp cold of December snow. Daniel watched Sarah's face as they entered. For a moment, something like longing crossed her features. A memory of a different life when coming to places like this was normal. Not a luxury, not a reminder of everything she'd lost. Apple stand first, Mia announced, pulling them toward a booth overflowing with different varieties of apples in wooden crates. Sarah, you have to show me the good ones. At the apple stand, something shifted. Sarah came alive in a way Daniel hadn't seen yet. She picked up an apple, examined it carefully with the attention of someone who knew what they were looking for, then handed it to Mia. See how it's firm when you press gently? No soft spots. And look at the color. This variety should have deep red with these yellow undertones. That means it got enough sun. She held it up to Mia's nose. Smell the stem end. Smells fresh, right? Not fermented or weird. Mia inhaled deeply and nodded, completely captivated by this lesson in something as simple as choosing fruit. That's a good apple, Sarah declared, placing it in their bag. They went through the process with a dozen apples. Sarah teaching, Mia learning, Daniel watching with something warm spreading through his chest that felt dangerously close to hope. His daughter was laughing, really laughing. And Sarah, for these few minutes, seemed to forget whatever darkness had brought her to tears on that bus stop bench. How do you know all this? Daniel asked. Sarah's expression softened with memory. My mom and I used to come to farmers' markets every Saturday. She grew up on a farm in eastern Oregon before she moved to Portland for nursing school. She taught me everything about picking produce. Her eyes went distant. I haven't been to a market since she died. Couldn't afford it. Daddy, can we get donuts? Mia pointed at a stand where fresh donuts were being made, the smell of fried dough and cinnamon sugar wafting over. Of course, baby. As they walked toward the donut stand, Sarah started to hang back. Daniel noticed immediately. You're getting a donut too, he said, gently but firmly. Daniel, I can't. When's the last time you had something warm and sweet? She didn't answer. That's what I thought. He ordered 3 donuts and 3 hot coffees, handing one of each to Sarah. No arguments. Sarah took the donut with shaking hands. When she bit into it, Daniel saw her eyes close. The expression on her face was almost painful to watch. Gratitude mixed with grief, mixed with the simple pleasure of warm food. It had been so long since someone had given her something without wanting something back. So long since kindness didn't come with conditions. They sat on a bench while Mia watched a juggler perform. An idea had been forming in Daniel's mind for the past hour. Crazy, impulsive. The kind of decision his brother would call reckless and his accountant would have a heart attack over. But something about this woman, something about her story, something about recognizing the same grief he carried every single day, the same desperate need to matter to someone, to be seen by someone, to not drown alone in the dark. It all added up to a decision that felt both insane and absolutely right. Sarah, Daniel said carefully, I want to ask you something, and I need you to really think about it before you answer. She looked at him warily. Okay, I have a garage apartment. It's a studio above our detached garage in the backyard. The last tenant moved out 6 months ago, and I haven't had time to list it again. He paused, choosing his words carefully. It needs some cleaning, maybe some paint, but it has heat, running water, a small kitchen. It's not much, but it's weatherproof and warm. Sarah's eyes widened. Daniel, I can't pay rent. I don't have any money at all. I'm not asking for rent, Daniel interrupted. I'm asking for help. I don't understand. Daniel looked over at Mia, who was laughing at the juggler, dropping balls on purpose to make the kids laugh. I'm CEO of a small construction company, family business. Long hours, early starts. Mia's in after-school care until 6 most days, and she hates it. The woman who runs it is nice enough, but it's just TV and snacks in a church basement. No homework help, no real attention, nothing that helps her be the kid she deserves to be. He turned back to Sarah. I come home exhausted. Most nights I'm too tired to do anything but heat up chicken nuggets and pass out during bedtime stories. Mia deserves better than what I can give her right now. She deserves someone who can pick her up from school, help with her homework, maybe make sure she eats a vegetable once in a while. You want me to be a nanny? Sarah asked. I want to trade, Daniel corrected. Room and board in exchange for childcare and some light housework. You'd have your own space, your own life, but you'd be there for Mia when I can't be. He leaned forward slightly. You said you ran a children's reading program. You know how to connect with kids. Mia already trusts you, which is rare. She's been cautious around people since her mom died, but she walked right up to you without any fear. That tells me something. Sarah was silent, her mind clearly racing through possibilities and dangers and all the ways this could go wrong. I know this is forward, Daniel said. I know you don't know us and we don't really know you, but I'm a pretty good judge of character. And so is my daughter. Right now, I think we could help each other. Why would you do this? Sarah asked, her voice thick with emotion. You don't even know me. Daniel thought about that for a moment, chose his words carefully because they mattered, because this moment mattered. I know you're educated. I know you're grieving someone you love deeply. I know you're capable because I watched the way you taught Mia about apples, the patience you showed with her questions, the genuine interest in what she had to say. He met her eyes. I know my 6-year-old daughter, who has better instincts about people than most adults I know, wanted to hug you, and I know what it's like to need someone to throw you a lifeline when you're drowning. When the world feels too big and too cold, and you're so tired you can't remember what hope feels like. Tears were streaming down Sarah's face again. Different tears than at the bus stop. These carried something else mixed in with the pain. Something that looked almost like hope. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Say you'll think about it, Daniel said. The offer stands. No pressure. I'm not trying to be a savior or play hero. I'm just a single dad who needs help, offering help to someone who needs it. Fair trade. Fair trade? Sarah laughed weakly. That's what you're calling this. What would you call it? She looked at him for a long moment, studying his face like she was trying to see through to his real intentions, trying to figure out if this was real or just another disappointment waiting to happen. I'd call it the kindest thing anyone has done for me in a very long time. Mia ran back over, powdered sugar coating her nose like snow. The juggler was so cool. He caught 5 balls at once. Daddy, can you juggle? Not even close, baby, Daniel said. Mia looked between her father and Sarah, her 6-year-old intuition picking up on the emotional weight in the air even if she didn't understand what it meant. Is Sarah okay? Yes, sweetheart. She's okay. Mia studied Sarah's tear-streaked face for a moment. Then, with the simple directness of a child, she wrapped her arms around Sarah's waist. I'm glad we found you today. Sarah hugged her back, closed her eyes. Over Mia's head, she looked at Daniel with an expression he couldn't quite read. Gratitude, fear, hope, maybe all three at once. Could I have some time to think about your offer? Sarah asked quietly. Of course. Take all the time you need. I don't have a phone, Sarah admitted. It felt like a confession, another reminder of how far she'd fallen. Daniel pulled out his phone and a receipt from his pocket, wrote down his number in clear block letters. The library on Belmont opens at 10 tomorrow morning. Mia and I go to Sunday story time there at 10:30 every week. If you want to talk more, find us there. Sarah took the receipt, folded it carefully like it was something precious, something that might disappear if she wasn't careful. Belmont Library, 10:30. No pressure, Daniel emphasized. If you decide it's not for you, no hard feelings. But if you want to give it a try, we'll make it work. As they prepared to part ways, Daniel and Mia heading home, Sarah to wherever she'd sleep tonight, Mia tugged on Sarah's coat one more time. You'll come tomorrow, right? To the library? Sarah knelt down to Mia's level, really looked at this small girl who had somehow changed the entire trajectory of her day with one simple question. Can I hug you? You know what? Sarah said. Yes, I'll be there, promise? Mia held out her pinky finger. The universal gesture of childhood, promises that can't be broken. Sarah linked her pinky with the child's, felt the simple trust in that gesture like both a weight and a gift, a responsibility and a lifeline. I promise. That night, as Daniel tucked Mia into bed in their small house, she looked up at him with serious eyes. Daddy, why did you invite Sarah to live with us? Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, thought carefully about his answer. His daughter was young, but she was smart. She deserved honesty. Remember last month when you had that bad dream about monsters? And you said hugging Mr. Bunny made you feel safer? Mia nodded, clutching the worn stuffed rabbit that had been hers since birth. Sometimes grown-ups need that too. Not the stuffed animal part, but people. To remind them they're not alone in the scary stuff. Sarah lost her mommy, and she doesn't have anybody to help her feel safe right now. Like how Uncle Marcus and Aunt Jennifer helped us when Mommy died. Daniel felt his throat tighten. Exactly like that, baby. If they hadn't brought us meals and helped watch you while I worked, I don't know how we would have survived those first months. Are we paying it forward? It was a phrase Daniel had taught her when they donated old toys to the children's hospital, passing on kindness that others had shown them. Yeah, sweetheart, we're paying it forward. Mia was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that made Daniel's heart clench in his chest. I think Mommy would like Sarah. Why is that? Because Mommy always said the best way to heal your own hurt is to help heal someone else's. Remember? She said that when we took flowers to Miss Sonia after her husband died. Daniel did remember. Amanda had said those exact words. 3 months before she herself would die, unexpectedly on an operating table, taken by a blood clot that nobody saw coming during what should have been routine surgery. He kissed Mia's forehead, fighting back tears. You're absolutely right, baby. Mommy would like Sarah very much. After Mia fell asleep, Daniel sat in his living room with a beer, wondering if he'd made the right decision, inviting a stranger to live on his property, to care for his daughter. It could be seen as reckless, dangerous even. But something in his gut told him this was different. Sarah wasn't a threat. She was someone drowning who needed someone to throw her a rope. And maybe, just maybe, helping her would help heal some of the broken pieces inside himself and Mia. The pieces that had been shattered 3 years ago and never quite fit back together right. He pulled out his phone and texted his brother Marcus. Did something potentially crazy today. We'll explain tomorrow, but I think it might be the good kind of crazy, Marcus replied immediately. This better not involve motorcycles or online poker. Daniel smiled despite himself. Neither. I'll call you tomorrow after I know if it's actually happening. He went to bed that night not knowing if Sarah would show up at the library, not knowing if his impulsive offer was wise or foolish, not knowing what tomorrow would bring. But for the first time in 3 years, he felt something that had been absent for so long, he'd almost forgotten what it felt like. Hope. Sunday morning came cold and clear. Daniel had cleaned the garage apartment the night before after Mia went to sleep, swept out the dust, washed the windows, made sure the heat worked and the hot water ran. The space was small, maybe 400 square feet, but it had a kitchenette, a full bathroom, and enough room for a bed and some furniture. It smelled a little musty from being closed up for 6 months, but nothing that fresh air and time couldn't fix. If she came, if she agreed. At 10:15, Daniel and Mia walked into the Belmont Library. The Sunday story time didn't start until 10:30, and Daniel found himself watching the entrance. His heart rate elevated in a way that had nothing to do with caffeine and everything to do with not knowing if the woman from yesterday would actually appear. "Do you think she'll come?" Mia whispered, holding his hand tight. "I don't know, baby, but if she doesn't, we'll still have story time, okay?" Mia nodded, but Daniel could already see the disappointment forming in her eyes. His daughter had connected with Sarah in a way she hadn't connected with anyone since Amanda died. If Sarah didn't show, it would be one more loss in a childhood that had already seen too many. 10:20, 10:25. And then at 10:27, the library door opened. Sarah walked in. She'd managed to shower somehow, maybe at a truck stop, maybe at a community center. Her blonde hair was still damp but combed neatly. She wore the same clothes from yesterday, but they looked cleaner, like she'd done her best to make herself presentable. When she saw them, her expression was nervous, but hopeful. Mia spotted her first and immediately broke free from Daniel's hand. She ran across the library, which earned them a sharp look from the librarian, but Mia didn't care. "You came. You kept your promise." Sarah caught the flying 6-year-old in a hug, her eyes closing as she held the child. Over Mia's head, she met Daniel's gaze. He smiled, mouthed the words, "Thank you." She mouthed back, "Thank you." The story time was about a lost cat finding its way home, appropriate in ways the librarian probably didn't intend. Sarah sat with them, Mia nestled between her and Daniel, and for 30 minutes they were just three people listening to a story. Not a CEO and a homeless woman and a grieving child. Just three people who'd found each other by accident and were trying to figure out what that meant. After it ended, they walked outside into the cool November morning. The snow had stopped, but everything was still white, clean, like the world had been given a fresh start. "I thought about your offer all night," Sarah said as they stood on the library steps. "Barely slept. Just kept turning it over in my mind." "And," Daniel asked gently, "I want to say yes, but I need you to know something first." She took a deep breath. "I have nothing to offer you except my time and my effort. I don't have references anymore. Powell's wouldn't give me one after I was let go. I don't have professional clothes for interviews. I've been surviving on the streets for months, and that changes you. I'm not the same person I was before my mom died. None of us are the same people we were before loss," Daniel said quietly. "Change isn't always bad. Sometimes it's just different." "I don't want to let you down," Sarah said, her voice breaking slightly. "Or worse, let Mia down." Daniel thought about that for a moment. "Here's what I propose. 1-week trial, you stay in the apartment, help with Mia, we see if it works for all of us. No strings attached. If after a week you want to leave, or if I feel it's not working out, we reassess. No hard feelings either way. Fair?" Sarah looked at him like she couldn't quite believe he was real. "That's more than fair. That's incredibly generous. So is that a yes?" She smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her. "Yes, it's a yes." Mia whooped and did a little dance right there on the library steps, not caring who saw. "Sarah's coming to live with us. Daddy, can we show her the apartment now?" "If Sarah wants to see it," Daniel said. "I'd love to," Sarah said, and Daniel heard the relief in her voice. One more night off the streets. One more night with a roof overhead and a locked door between her and the world. Maybe more than one night if things worked out. The garage apartment wasn't much to look at, but watching Sarah walk through it was like watching someone discover treasure. She ran her hand over the small kitchenette counter, tested the faucet, watching the water run clear and hot, sat on the old futon that served as both couch and bed, looked out the window at the small backyard where Daniel had already promised Mia they'd plant a garden in spring. "It's perfect," she whispered. "It needs work," Daniel said honestly. "The paint is old, that futon is probably due for replacement, and the heater is loud." "It's perfect," Sarah repeated, turning to face him with tears in her eyes. "Daniel, you have no idea. I've spent the last 4 months sleeping in doorways, under bridges, in 24-hour McDonald's until they kick me out. Having a door that locks, a bed that's mine, a bathroom where I don't have to worry about being assaulted. This is perfect." Daniel felt his own eyes burning. I'll get you some sheets and towels. There's a mini fridge under the counter, and I'll stock it with basics. Mia gets home from school at 3:30, so if you could be there to pick her up then. I'll be there, Sarah said immediately. Daniel, I won't let you down. I promise. I believe you. And strangely enough, he did. The first week was an adjustment for everyone. Sarah picked up Mia from Ridgewood Elementary at 3:30 that Monday, and Mia came home chattering about how all her friends thought Sarah was so cool and wanted to know if she was her new mom, and Mia had said not yet, but maybe someday. And did Sarah think that could happen? Sarah didn't know how to answer that, so she just smiled and helped Mia with her homework at the kitchen table. Patient as the 6-year-old struggled through reading comprehension questions about a story that made no sense to either of them. By Wednesday, Sarah had made spaghetti for dinner. Real spaghetti with actual sauce from actual tomatoes, not from a jar. Daniel came home at 6:30 to the smell of garlic bread and vegetables. Actual vegetables. Green things that weren't frozen. You didn't have to cook, he said, genuinely surprised. I wanted to. Besides, I saw the pantry situation. How much mac and cheese can one 6-year-old eat? You'd be surprised, Daniel said with a laugh. The first real laugh Sarah had heard from him. It changed his whole face, made him look younger, less tired, more like the man he probably was before grief carved lines into his features. By Friday, Mia's reading homework was done early, and Sarah had helped her start a book report that wasn't due for 2 weeks. Your daughter is ahead of schedule, Sarah told Daniel that evening, and she's reading at almost a second grade level. She's smart, gets that from her mom too, Daniel said softly, then added even quieter, thank you for seeing her. Really seeing her. I've been so buried in just surviving that I forgot to notice she was thriving. The week trial ended and neither of them brought up Sarah leaving. It just worked. Simple as that. They'd found a rhythm that felt natural, comfortable, like pieces fitting together that had been separate too long. 3 months passed faster than any of them expected. January came with snow and cold mornings and the slow settling into routines that felt less like arrangements and more like family. The garage apartment now had curtains that Sarah had sewn from fabric she'd found at an estate sale. She'd painted the walls a warm cream color, using leftover paint Daniel brought home from a construction site. There was a small bookshelf she'd found at Goodwill, slowly filling with books from the library's free bin. Mystery novels and poetry and children's books she read to practice her storytelling voice. Sarah had started volunteering at the Belmont Library on Saturdays, which led to a part-time paid position, shelving books and helping with children's programs. 12 hours a week at $11 an hour. It wasn't much, but it was income. Legitimate income. Money she earned with her own hands doing work she loved. Money that made her feel like a person again instead of a problem to be solved. She was rebuilding, slowly, one shift at a time. One paycheck at a time, one day at a time. Mia's reading had improved dramatically. She'd moved up 2 levels in her reading group at school, and her teacher, Mrs. Patterson, had pulled Daniel aside at pickup one day to say, whatever you're doing at home, keep doing it. Your daughter is thriving in ways I haven't seen before. She's more confident, more engaged, more herself. Daniel had to bite back tears hearing that, because he knew it wasn't him. It was Sarah. Sarah who spent patient hours sounding out words and celebrating every small victory. Sarah who turned reading into an adventure instead of a chore. Sarah who saw Mia not as a responsibility, but as a whole person worth investing in. And Daniel? Daniel had started coming home to a house that felt lived in again. Not just survived in, lived in. There was laughter. There were home-cooked meals more often than not. There was someone who asked him about his day and actually listened to the answer. Someone who noticed when he was tired and quietly took over bath time without being asked. Someone who left notes on the coffee maker in the morning that said things like, have a good day and you're doing great, and Mia drew this for you, it's on the fridge. He tried not to think too hard about the way his heart rate picked up when Sarah smiled at him, or the way he'd started taking longer showers and actually combing his hair in the morning instead of just running wet hands through it, or the way he found excuses to linger in the kitchen when she was cooking, just to talk, just to be near her. This was a business arrangement, a trade. She helped with Mia. He provided housing. That was all it was supposed to be, except it was starting to feel like more, and that terrified him. 6 months after that Saturday morning at the bus stop, Daniel came home to find the backyard transformed. Sarah and Mia had planted a garden. Neat rows of starter plants filled the raised beds that Daniel had helped them build a few weeks earlier. Tomatoes and peppers and herbs, and even some flowers lined up like soldiers ready for spring. Mia was filthy, dirt smudged across her face, her hair wild and tangled with leaves. She'd never looked happier. "Daddy, look! We planted everything. Sarah taught me how deep to put the roots and how much to water and everything." Daniel looked at Sarah, who was equally dirty, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, wearing an old t-shirt and jeans with holes in the knees, dirt under her fingernails and a smudge of mud on her cheek. She looked beautiful. The thought hit him like a physical blow. She looked beautiful and he was in so much trouble. "It's amazing," he managed to say, his voice rougher than he intended. "Your daughter is a natural gardener," Sarah said, smiling. "She didn't give up even when the soil was really hard to dig." "I get my stubbornness from Daddy," Mia announced proudly. They ordered pizza that night and ate it on the back porch, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink and gold. Mia chattered about her garden plans, already dreaming of the tomatoes they'd eat in summer, the salads they'd make, the herbs they'd dry for winter. After Mia went to bed, Daniel and Sarah sat outside a little longer. The spring air was cool but pleasant, the kind of evening that felt like promise, like maybe good things were still possible. "Thank you," Daniel said quietly, "for the garden, for everything you do for her, for us." "She makes it easy," Sarah replied. "She's an incredible kid, Daniel. You should be proud." "I am, but you've helped bring her back to life in ways I couldn't. She was so closed off after her mom died. Wouldn't talk about feelings, wouldn't cry, just kept everything locked inside like she thought expressing emotion would break me. Now she laughs again, really laughs. The kind of laugh that comes from deep in the belly and lights up her whole face." "You did that too," Sarah said. "You're a good father. She knows she's loved, even when you're tired, even when you're struggling. She feels safe with you, and that's the foundation of everything else." They were quiet for a moment, the weight of unsaid things hanging between them like humidity before a storm. "Sarah," Daniel said, "I need to tell you something." She turned to look at him, nervous suddenly, the way people get when they sense their world is about to shift. "Okay, my wife, Amanda, she died during what should have been a routine gallbladder surgery, blood clot to her lung. The doctor said it was rare, unpredictable, nobody's fault. She went in for surgery at 9 in the morning and was gone by noon. I had 45 minutes to say goodbye and she was already unconscious. I never got to tell her all the things I should have said, all the things I thought we had time for." Sarah reached over and took his hand, just held it, didn't say anything, didn't try to fix it, just held his hand and let him talk. "I've been frozen since then," Daniel continued, "just going through the motions. Work, Mia, survive, repeat. I didn't let myself feel anything because feeling meant hurting, and I couldn't afford to hurt when Mia needed me to be strong. So I just shut it all down, became this robot version of myself, efficient, functional, empty. And now," Sarah asked softly, "now I'm starting to feel things again, and it scares the hell out of me." Sarah squeezed his hand, understanding exactly what he was saying and what he wasn't saying. "My mom used to tell me that grief isn't something you get over," she said quietly. "It's something you learn to carry differently. The weight never really changes, but you get stronger. Strong enough to hold the grief and still have room for other things. Joy, hope, maybe even love again someday." Daniel looked at her. This woman who'd walked into his life when they both needed saving, who taught him how to see his daughter again, how to laugh again, how to hope again. He felt something crack open in his chest, something that had been frozen solid for 3 long years. "I think you're right," he whispered. They sat there holding hands as the stars came out, not saying anything more, not needing to. Some things don't need words. Some things are understood in the silence between heartbeats. By 9 months, anyone looking at them would have assumed they were already a family. Sarah was working 20 hours a week at the library now. She'd enrolled in online courses to finish her teaching certification. Daniel had helped her buy a used laptop, calling it a business investment in Mia's education, but they both knew it was more than that. Mia was thriving. Her second-grade teacher had pulled Daniel aside at parent-teacher conferences to say your daughter is one of the top readers in the class and her confidence has grown remarkably. Whatever you're doing at home, keep doing it. What they were doing at home was becoming a unit. The three of them fell into rhythms and routines that felt natural. Sunday pancakes with Sarah teaching Mia to flip them without making a mess. Wednesday night movie nights with popcorn and blanket forts in the living room. Saturday morning farmers market trips where Mia now taught other kids how to pick the best apples, repeating everything Sarah had taught her like gospel. Daniel and Sarah hadn't talked again about the feelings growing between them. They danced around it, professional and careful, maintaining boundaries that were getting harder and harder to maintain. The accidental hand touches that lasted a moment too long. The way Daniel's gaze would linger when Sarah was focused on helping Mia with homework, her brow furrowed in concentration. The way Sarah's breath would catch when Daniel came home from work, his shirt damp with sweat, smelling like sawdust and effort. The way Mia had started calling Sarah Miss Sarah with the easy affection of a child who'd claimed someone as family. The way they'd both started imagining what it would be like if this arrangement became something more, something real, something permanent. It was October when everything changed. 1 year anniversary of that Saturday at the bus stop. Daniel had taken the afternoon off work, rare for him, to help with Mia's class harvest festival. Sarah had come too, officially as a volunteer, but really because Mia had begged them both to be there, and neither could say no to her. After the festival, walking home with Mia between them holding both their hands, she looked up with those perceptive brown eyes and asked the question they'd both been avoiding. "Are you guys going to get married?" Daniel nearly tripped over his own feet. Sarah's face flushed bright red. Mia continued with 7-year-old logic. "Why not? You like each other. I can tell. And we're already a family, so why not make it official?" "It's more complicated than that, sweetheart," Daniel started. "Why?" Mia interrupted. "Because you think I won't be okay with it." She stopped walking, looked at both of them with an intensity that was startling in someone so young. "Seriously, I miss Mommy every day. I'll always miss her. But she's not coming back. And I think she'd want Daddy to be happy again. And I think she'd want me to have someone like you, Sarah. Someone who reads with me and teaches me things and makes Daddy smile again." Daniel felt tears prickling his eyes. Where did his 6-year-old daughter get this wisdom? How did she become the adult in this conversation? "I want you to get married," Mia said firmly. "I've been wishing for it every night on the first star. So you should probably just do it before I run out of wishes." She skipped ahead of them, leaving Daniel and Sarah standing there stunned. The late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the sidewalk, the October air cool and crisp with the smell of burning leaves. "Well," Sarah said after a long moment, "that was subtle." Daniel laughed despite himself, a real laugh from deep in his chest. "She gets her lack of subtlety from me too, apparently." They started walking again, slower now, Mia far enough ahead that they could talk without her hearing. "Daniel," Sarah said softly, "what do you want?" He stopped walking, turned to face her fully. This woman who'd changed everything, who'd saved his daughter, who'd saved him without even knowing she was doing it. Honestly, I want to stop pretending this is just a business arrangement. I want to stop lying to myself about what I feel when you smile at me. I want to stop finding excuses to be in the same room as you just to hear your voice. I want to stop pretending that seeing you with Mia doesn't make me imagine what it would be like if we were really a family. Not just 3 people living together, but an actual family." He took a breath. "I want to kiss you. I've wanted to kiss you for months." Sarah's eyes were shining with tears. "Then why haven't you?" "Because I'm terrified. Because letting myself love someone again means risking the kind of loss that nearly destroyed me the first time. Because you deserve better than someone with all my baggage and a kid and a job that keeps me away 12 hours a day and a dead wife whose memory I'll always carry." Sarah stepped forward, closed the distance between them, put her hand on his chest, right over his heart. "I'm terrified too," she whispered. "I lost my mom and my entire life fell apart. The idea of loving someone and risking that kind of loss again, it's terrifying. But Daniel, I think I'm more scared of never taking the risk at all, of spending the rest of my life wondering what if. What if I'd been brave enough to try?" She looked up at him, her hand still on his chest, his heart pounding so hard he was sure she could feel it. "I'm not easy to love either. I work too little because I'm still scared of failing. I'm not great at talking about feelings because I spent 8 months having no one to talk to. I have grief I haven't processed and fears I haven't named, and I will probably mess this up in ways we can't even imagine yet. Daniel put his hand over hers. I know all that. I've lived with you for a year. I've seen you exhausted and frustrated and worried and sad. And I've also seen you be the most patient person I've ever known. I've seen you love my daughter like she's your own. I've seen you make her laugh when I couldn't. I've seen you be kind when you had every reason to be bitter. I've seen you, Sarah. All of you, and I love what I see. Sarah stood up forward and kissed him. Soft at first, tentative, like she was asking permission. Daniel kissed her back, pulling her close like he was afraid she might disappear. Like this might be a dream he'd wake from. When they broke apart, both of them were crying. I love you, Sarah whispered. I've loved you since the day you offered me a donut at the farmer's market and treated me like a person instead of a problem. Since the day you let me pick your apples and didn't make me feel like charity. Since the day you gave me a home and asked for nothing but help with your daughter. I love you and I'm terrified and I have no idea what I'm doing, but I want to try. Daniel kissed her again. Longer this time. Deeper. Trying to communicate with touch what words couldn't quite capture. When they finally made it home, Mia was waiting on the porch with a knowing smile. Did you kiss? She asked immediately. Mia, Daniel started. Yes, Sarah said, laughing through tears. We kissed. Mia threw her hands in the air like she'd won something. Finally, I was running out of wishes. The three of them went inside together. A CEO father learning how to live again. A daughter who'd been brave enough to push them together. And a woman who'd come into their lives crying on a bus stop bench, changed forever by a 6-year-old's offered hug. 1 year became 2 years. The garage apartment became less used as Sarah spent more nights in the main house, until eventually Daniel asked if she wanted to just move her things in officially. Are you sure? She'd asked. I've never been more sure of anything, he'd replied. Sarah got her teaching certification and started working as a substitute teacher, building toward a full-time position. The library kept her on for Saturday programs because the kids loved her and she loved them back. It was the perfect balance. Mia called her Sarah most of the time, but sometimes in moments of pure joy or when she was scared or hurt, she'd slip and call her mom. 3 weeks before the proposal, Sarah discovered she was pregnant. She stared at the test in the library bathroom. 2 pink lines, clear, undeniable, terrifying. They'd been careful, mostly, but there was that night in June after Mia's piano recital when they'd both been so happy, so caught up in the moment, so convinced that this family they'd built was real and permanent. Sarah's first thought wasn't joy, it was fear. What if Daniel thinks I trapped him? What if he thinks this was my plan all along? Get into his house, into his life, get pregnant, secure my future. She'd heard the whispers at Mia's school, seen the looks from other parents who knew her story. The former homeless woman who landed a CEO. Too convenient, too fast, too much like a fairy tale that couldn't possibly be real. She couldn't tell him. Not yet. Not until she figured out how to say it without sounding like she'd orchestrated this. Not until she could be sure he'd believe her. So she hid it. Wore loose clothes, blamed her nausea on a stomach bug, turned down wine at dinner claiming she was on antibiotics. Small lies that grew heavier every day. It was Mia who noticed first. Sarah, your tummy looks different, Mia said one morning while Sarah was getting dressed. Are you getting fat? No, baby, just bloated. Too much pasta. But Mia's eyes were too knowing, too perceptive. Mommy's tummy looked like that before she told Daddy about me. There's a picture. Grandma showed me once. Sarah's heart stopped. Mia, I need you to not say anything to your dad, okay? I'll tell him when I'm ready. Why are you scared? Mia asked with the blunt directness of a 7-year-old. Don't you want a baby? I do. But sometimes grown-ups need time to figure out how to say important things. Daddy will be happy, Mia said with complete certainty. He loves you. He'll love the baby too. Daniel proposed on a Saturday morning at the farmer's market, the same market where he'd first invited Sarah to join them for apples. He got down on one knee right there by the apple stand while Mia bounced excitedly beside him, barely able to contain herself. You taught us how to pick the good ones, he said, holding out a ring he'd saved 6 months to buy. Simple gold band with a small diamond. Nothing fancy, but it was real and it was hers and it represented everything they'd built together. Sarah, you're the best one, the best thing that ever happened to us. Will you marry me? She said yes through tears. Mia cheered so loud the whole market turned to look. The vendor at the apple stand clapped. A few other shoppers joined in. It was messy and public and perfect. After she said yes, after Mia stopped cheering, after the market crowd dispersed, they walked home in the late afternoon light. Daniel, Sarah said, I need to tell you something. He looked at her, concerned. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, at least I hope it's not wrong. She took a deep breath. I'm pregnant. 10 weeks. I found out 3 weeks ago and I've been terrified to tell you because I didn't want you to think I planned this or trapped you or that this was some scheme to secure my place in your life. And I know how crazy that sounds, but I've been so scared that you'd think I was using you and… Sarah, Daniel stopped walking, took both her hands. You're pregnant? She nodded, tears streaming. We're having a baby? Yes. Daniel pulled her into his arms, held her so tight she could barely breathe. He was shaking, or maybe she was shaking, or maybe they both were. When he pulled back, he was crying. That's the best news I've heard since the day you said yes to moving in. Since the day Mia first called you mom. Since the day you agreed to marry me. You're not angry? You don't think I trapped you? Daniel laughed through tears. Trapped me? Sarah, you saved me. You saved Mia. And now you're giving us another chance to do this right. To raise a child together from the beginning. To not let grief steal the joy. He knelt down again, right there on the sidewalk, put his hand on her still flat stomach. Hello in there, he whispered. I'm your dad. I can't wait to meet you. Sarah sobbed. Mia ran back to them. Why is everyone crying? Are we still getting married? Yes, Daniel said, and you're going to be a big sister. Mia's eyes went huge. Really? I'm getting a baby? Really? Mia hugged Sarah's middle. Hi, baby. I'm Mia. I'm going to teach you everything. They got married that following April in a small ceremony at the Belmont Library where they'd had their second meeting, where Sarah had shown up nervous and hopeful, and Daniel had been so relieved he couldn't speak, where Mia had hugged Sarah like she'd found something precious she didn't want to let go of. Mia was the flower girl and took her duties very seriously. Daniel's brother Marcus was best man and gave a speech about how Daniel had told him years ago that he'd never love again and how grateful he was that Daniel had been wrong. That sometimes the best things in life come from being wrong about what you think you can survive. Sarah's vows included a line that made everyone cry. A year and a half ago, I was sitting on a bench with nothing left but grief, and a little girl with a heart too big for the world asked if she could hug me. That hug saved my life. So did her father. You both remind me every day that the world, despite everything, is still full of kindness, still full of second chances, still full of love worth risking everything for. Daniel's vows were simpler. Amanda, if you're watching, thank you for teaching me how to love. Thank you for Mia, and thank you for somehow sending Sarah to us when we needed her most. I know you'd love her too. Then to Sarah, you gave me back my daughter. You gave me back my life. You gave me back hope when I thought I'd lost it forever. I promise to spend the rest of my life making sure you never doubt that you are seen and valued and loved beyond measure. They danced at the reception, Sarah's head on Daniel's shoulder. Mia squeezed between them because she insisted. Daniel whispered, I can't believe you're my wife. Sarah whispered back, believe it. You're stuck with me now. Best decision I ever made, he said. Second best, actually. First was listening to my daughter when she wanted to hug a stranger. Mia looked up at both of them with those wise brown eyes. See, I told you my hugs were magic. And she was right. Sometimes one small act of kindness, one moment of courage from a 6-year-old child can change everything, can save 3 lives, can build a family from broken pieces, can prove that love isn't about perfection, it's about showing up, about being brave enough to try again, about believing that second chances are real and worth reaching for. Life has a way of testing the things we build. The stronger the foundation, the harder the test. Daniel and Sarah were about to learn that lesson in ways they never expected. It started 3 weeks after the wedding, a Tuesday morning in early October. Almost exactly 2 years since that Saturday at the bus stop. Daniel was at the construction site when his phone rang, unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Mr. Hartwell, this is Linda Chen from Child Protective Services. We need to schedule a home visit regarding Mia Hartwell. We've received a report of concern about her living situation. Daniel's blood went cold. What kind of concern? I can't discuss details over the phone, but we take all reports seriously. Can you be available tomorrow at 10 in the morning for a home assessment? Yes, of course. Whatever you need. He hung up and immediately called Sarah. She was at the library reading to a group of kindergartners. She saw Daniel's name on the screen and excused herself. What's wrong? She could hear it in the silence before he spoke. CPS called. Someone reported us. They're coming tomorrow to assess whether Mia is safe. Sarah sat down hard on the hallway floor. Safe? Daniel, what are we talking about here? I don't know. They wouldn't say. Just that they received a report of concern. That night, after Mia went to bed, they sat at the kitchen table trying to figure out who would have called. Who would think Mia wasn't safe? Daniel's brother Marcus? No, he loved Mia. Sarah's old co-workers from Powell's? They didn't even know she was married. Neighbors? Teachers? The social worker arrived at exactly 10 the next morning. Ms. Park, late 40s, professional but not unkind. She spent 2 hours in their home. Talked to Mia alone in her room for 30 minutes. Mia came out looking confused but not upset. She said I was very smart and asked if I felt safe here, Mia reported. I told her yes. I told her you're the best parents ever. Did I do okay? You did perfect, baby, Sarah said, hugging her. After Ms. Park left, Daniel found the report summary she'd given them. An anonymous call stating that a former homeless woman with no background check was living with and caring for a minor child. That the child's father worked long hours and the woman had unsupervised access. That there were concerns about the woman's mental stability and ability to provide proper care. Daniel felt rage building in his chest. Every word was technically true. Sarah had been homeless. They hadn't done a formal background check beyond Daniel's gut instinct. He did work long hours, but the way it was framed made it sound dangerous, neglectful, wrong. It wasn't wrong, it was the best thing that ever happened to them. We need to prepare for the possibility that they might remove her, Sarah said quietly, her face pale. If they think I'm a risk, if they think you're not providing adequate supervision. They're not taking my daughter. Daniel's voice was steel, over my dead body, but the fear had settled in. The what-ifs, the ways the system could tear apart what they'd built, the ways good intentions could be weaponized by someone who didn't understand their story. Ms. Park called 3 days later. Mr. Hartwell, I've completed my assessment. I found no evidence of neglect or abuse. Mia is clearly thriving, happy, well cared for. Your home is clean and safe. Mrs. Hartwell's background check came back clean as well. Daniel exhaled for what felt like the first time in 3 days. However, Ms. Park continued, I do have concerns about the lack of formal childcare arrangements given your work hours. I'd like to see a more structured after-school program in place. Something with oversight. Can you arrange that? Yes, absolutely. Whatever you need. Good. I'll close this case as unfounded, but I'll do a follow-up visit in 3 months just to ensure everything remains stable. Is that acceptable? Yes. Thank you. After he hung up, Daniel sat on the couch and put his head in his hands. Sarah sat beside him, her hand on his back. We're okay, she said. Mia's okay. It's over. But it wasn't over, because that night Marcus called. I need to tell you something, Marcus said, his voice tight with guilt. Jennifer called CPS. My wife. She's the one who reported you. Daniel felt like he'd been punched. What? She was worried. She thinks Sarah moved too fast into your life, that you don't really know her, that Mia's getting attached to someone who might leave. She thought she was protecting Mia. By trying to take her away, Daniel's voice was rising. By making Sarah out to be some kind of threat. She was wrong, I know that. I'd told her that. We've been fighting about it for days. I'm sorry, Daniel. I'm so sorry. Daniel hung up without responding. Looked at Sarah with anger and hurt and exhaustion written across his face. It was Jennifer, Marcus's wife. She called. Sarah closed her eyes. Of course. She never liked me, never trusted me. I could see it every time we visited. She was wrong, Daniel said fiercely. You are not a threat. You are Mia's mother in every way that matters. And I'm done apologizing for how we became a family. But the damage was done. The seed of doubt had been planted. Not in Daniel's mind or Sarah's, but in the world around them, in the way people looked at them, in the questions they now had to answer about background checks and childcare arrangements, and whether a formerly homeless woman was fit to raise a CEO's daughter. The next few weeks were hard. Mia sensed the tension even though they tried to hide it. She started having nightmares, waking up crying, asking if Sarah was leaving, if the lady from CPS was coming back, if she'd done something wrong. You didn't do anything wrong, baby, Sarah would say, holding her. You're perfect. This is grown-up stuff that has nothing to do with you. But that was a lie. It had everything to do with Mia, because she was the one caught in the middle, the one who'd found Sarah first, who'd offered that hug, who'd built this family with her small hands and big heart. The breaking point came on a Tuesday in January. Daniel and Sarah were arguing in the garage apartment, trying to keep their voices down. Failing. I can't do this anymore, Sarah said. The constant fear. Waiting for someone else to decide our family isn't good enough. So what's your solution, Daniel shot back. Leave before they can take Mia? Prove Jennifer right that you can't handle this? That's not fair. None of this is fair. But we don't get to quit just because it's hard. Neither of them heard the back door open, didn't hear the small footsteps across the yard, didn't know Mia was standing outside the garage apartment until they heard her voice. Stop fighting. Please stop fighting. They froze, turned to see Mia in the doorway, wearing pajamas and boots, tears streaming down her face. Baby, Sarah started, are you getting divorced? Mia's voice was small, broken. Is the CPS lady right? Are we not a real family? Daniel knelt down. Of course we're a real family. Then why are you yelling? Why is Sarah sleeping out here again? Why does everyone keep saying we're wrong? No one answered. Because what do you say to a 7-year-old who's asking the questions you can't answer yourselves? Mia turned and ran. By the time they got outside, she was gone. Not in the house, not in the yard. Daniel's truck was still in the driveway, so she hadn't gone far. But it was January, 30 degrees, dark, and Mia was out there somewhere in pajamas. Daniel called 911 while Sarah ran down the street calling Mia's name. Neighbors came out. Marcus and Jennifer arrived within 10 minutes. Within 30 minutes, there were 15 people searching. It was Jennifer who found her, at the bus stop on Division Street, the same bench where Sarah had been crying 3 years ago. Mia sat there hugging her knees, shaking from cold and fear. I wanted to find where Mommy Sarah was when I found her, Mia said through chattering teeth. I wanted to see if I could feel that magic again, the magic that made us a family. Jennifer wrapped her coat around Mia, picked her up, carried her back. When Daniel saw them, he collapsed, just went down on his knees in the middle of the street. Sarah ran to Mia, checking her for frostbite, hypothermia, any sign of harm. I'm sorry, Mia kept saying. I'm sorry I ran away. Please don't fight anymore. Please don't give up on us. They took her inside, warmed her up, put her to bed, sat with her until she fell asleep. Then Daniel and Sarah sat at the kitchen table and looked at each other. We almost lost her, Daniel said. Not to CPS, to our own fear. I know. This ends now, the pulling away, the second guessing, the letting other people's doubt become our doubt. We're a family, real and legal and permanent, and we fight for that, together, not by falling apart. Sarah reached across the table, took his hand, together. Jennifer appeared in the doorway. I'm so sorry. This is my fault. My call to CPS did this. No, Sarah said. Your call revealed something that was already broken. But we're going to fix it. Starting now, Christmas came. Their first Christmas as a married couple. They tried to make it special, decorated the tree together, made cookies, sang carols. But there was a shadow over everything. The knowledge that someone out there thought their family was wrong, that their love wasn't enough to protect them. On Christmas Eve, Sarah found Daniel in Mia's room, watching her sleep, tears on his face. What if they'd taken her? He whispered. What if that report had come from someone more credible? What if Miss Park had decided I wasn't fit? What if I'd lost both of you? Sarah knelt beside him, put her arms around him. You didn't lose us. You won't lose us. We're a family, real and legal and permanent. No one can take that away. Jennifer tried. Jennifer was scared. People do stupid things when they're scared. But she failed. We're still here. Daniel turned to look at her. I don't think I could survive losing you. Either of you. Amanda's death nearly killed me. If I lost you and Mia after finally learning how to live again, I don't think I'd come back from that. Sarah held him tighter. Then it's a good thing you're not going to lose us. But even as she said it, she felt her own fear curling in her stomach, because she knew how fast things could fall apart. Had lived it, had lost everything once before. What if it happened again? What if Daniel decided she was too much risk, too much baggage, too much potential for loss? The fear made her pull back, made her start working longer hours at the library, made her volunteer for extra shifts, made her create distance because distance felt safer than vulnerability. Daniel noticed. Of course he noticed. But he didn't know how to bridge the gap. Didn't know how to tell her that her pulling away scared him more than any CPS investigation ever could. January came cold and gray. Mia's 8th birthday. They threw her a party with her school friends. Sarah made a cake shaped like a stack of books because Mia loved reading more than anything. Daniel got her a bicycle with training wheels, even though she was probably too old for training wheels because he wasn't ready for her to ride without them. Wasn't ready for her to not need him. The party was a success. But that night, after everyone left and Mia was in bed, Daniel found Sarah in the garage apartment. She'd been spending more time there lately, sleeping there some nights, creating distance. Are you leaving? Daniel asked from the doorway. Sarah looked up from the book she wasn't reading. What? Are you leaving? You're pulling away, sleeping out here, working more. You barely talk to me anymore. If you want out, just say so. Don't make me watch you disappear slowly. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I'm not leaving. I'm scared. Of what? Of losing this. Of having it taken away like everything else has been taken away. That CPS investigation terrified me, Daniel. Made me realize how fragile this all is. How fast it could all fall apart. So your solution is to fall apart first? To leave before you can be left? Sarah stood up, anger flashing. I watched my mother die. Watched my entire life collapse. Spent 8 months on the streets learning that nothing is permanent and no one stays. You can't blame me for being scared. I'm not blaming you, Daniel said, his voice breaking. I'm asking you to stay scared with me instead of alone. To trust that we can survive the fear together. What if we can't? What if something happens to you? What if Mia gets sick? What if CPS comes back? What if Jennifer was right and I'm not good enough for this family? Daniel crossed the room, took her face in his hands. You listen to me, Sarah Morgan Hartwell. You are exactly good enough. You are more than good enough. You are the woman who taught my daughter how to laugh again, who taught me how to hope again, who showed up to a library on a Sunday morning when you could have walked away and never looked back. You are brave and kind and exactly who we need. Sarah was crying hard now. I'm so scared of losing you. Then lose me while holding my hand, not while pushing me away. They held each other in that garage apartment where Sarah had first found safety, where she'd first started to believe that maybe she deserved good things, that maybe the universe wasn't just taking from her anymore. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry for pulling away. I'm sorry, too, for not seeing how scared you were, for not telling you every day that you're safe here, that we're safe together. They slept in the main house that night, in their bed, with Mia between them because she'd crawled in around midnight saying she had a bad dream. The three of them tangled together, a family knitted from broken pieces, but strong in the ways that mattered. February brought a thaw, not just in the weather, but in them. Sarah started staying home more. Daniel started leaving work earlier. They made a point of having dinner together every night, of talking about the hard things instead of avoiding them, of choosing each other even when it was scary. Marcus called to apologize again. Jennifer had apologized too through tears, saying she'd been wrong, that she could see how happy Mia was, how loved. That fear had made her cruel and she was sorry. Sarah accepted the apology even though it hurt, even though the damage had been done, because holding on to anger felt heavier than letting it go, because Mia loved her uncle and aunt, and Sarah wouldn't be the reason that relationship ended. They had dinner together. The six of them, Marcus and Jennifer and their two kids, Daniel and Sarah and Mia. It was awkward at first, tense. But then Mia started telling jokes and the kids started laughing, and slowly the ice thawed. Jennifer pulled Sarah aside before they left. I was wrong about you. I see that now. I see how much you love them, how good you are for them. I'm sorry I tried to take that away. Sarah nodded, didn't quite forgive, but didn't quite hold on either. Just let it be what it was. An apology she'd accept for Daniel's sake, for Mia's sake, for the sake of family being messy and complicated and worth fighting for anyway. Spring came with its garden. Mia and Sarah planted tomatoes and peppers and herbs just like they had the year before. But this year Daniel joined them, got his hands dirty, laughed when Mia threw a handful of soil at him, chased her around the yard while Sarah watched and felt her heart so full it ached. This was what she'd been scared of losing. This ordinary magic, this everyday joy, this family they'd built from nothing. Ms. Park did her follow-up visit in March, found everything exactly as it should be. Mia thriving in school, Sarah working steadily, Daniel more present. A family that worked not because it was perfect, but because they kept choosing it. I'm closing this case permanently, Ms. Park said. No concerns, no follow-up needed. You're doing a wonderful job. After she left, Daniel pulled Sarah into his arms. We made it. We made it, she agreed. That night they celebrated. Pizza and movies and Mia falling asleep between them on the couch. Daniel carried her to bed, tucked her in, kissed her forehead, came back to find Sarah cleaning up pizza boxes and trying not to cry. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, Sarah said. Everything's right. That's what's wrong. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something to go wrong again. Daniel took the pizza box from her hands, set it down, pulled her close. Maybe there is no other shoe. Maybe this is just life now. Good and hard and beautiful and scary, all mixed together. Maybe we stop waiting for disaster and just live. Sarah nodded against his chest. Okay, let's just live. And they did. 2 years became 3 years. Mia turned 9. Smart and funny and so full of light, it was hard to remember the quiet, scared child she'd been. She had friends, hobbies, a healthy relationship with grief, where she could talk about Amanda without it destroying her, where she could love Sarah without feeling like she was betraying her first mother. Sarah got offered a full-time teaching position at Ridgewood Elementary, 3rd grade, the same school Mia attended. She accepted, finally felt like she had a career again, a purpose beyond surviving, a future she was building instead of just enduring. Daniel promoted his assistant manager to VP of operations, started leaving work at 4 instead of 7, started coaching Mia's soccer team even though he knew nothing about soccer, started being the father Amanda would have wanted him to be, the father he'd been too broken to be for so long. They were happy, not perfect. They still fought about dishes and schedules and whose turn it was to help with homework. Still had hard days, still carried grief that would never fully go away. But they were happy in the real, messy, complicated way that actual families are happy. It was a Saturday in November, 3 years since the bus stop. Daniel had planned something special. Told Sarah to meet him at the farmer's market at 10 in the morning. Told Mia to wear something nice. Wouldn't say why. Sarah arrived to find Daniel and Mia standing by the apple stand. The same apple stand where Sarah had taught Mia how to pick the good ones. Where Daniel had first felt hope stirring after years of numbness. What's going on? Sarah asked. Daniel took her hand. 3 years ago today, you were sitting on a bench crying, holding a picture of your mother, thinking you had nothing left. And my daughter walked up to you and asked if she could give you a hug. Sarah nodded, not trusting her voice. That hug changed 3 lives. Mine, Mia's, yours. It took us from broken to whole, from alone to family, from surviving to living. He gestured to the apple stand. The vendor was smiling. So were about 30 other people gathered around. Sarah recognized faces, Marcus and Jennifer, Sarah's co-workers from the library, Mia's teachers, neighbors, friends they'd made over 3 years of building a life. I wanted everyone who's part of our story to be here, Daniel said. Because 3 years ago, we started something beautiful and hard and worth celebrating. 3 years ago, we became a family. And every year on this day, I want us to remember, to come back here and celebrate the hug that saved us. Sarah was crying now, happy tears, grateful tears, tears for everything they'd survived and everything they'd become. Mia hugged Sarah tight. Thank you for letting me hug you. Thank you for staying. Thank you for being my mom. Sarah held her daughter. This child who'd seen her pain and responded with love, who'd taught her that kindness wasn't weakness, that vulnerability wasn't danger, that family could be chosen and chosen family was just as real. Daniel pulled them both close. His girls, his family, his second chance at life. The crowd clapped. The vendor gave them a bag of apples on the house. Someone had brought a cake. Someone else had brought cider. It turned into an impromptu party right there in the farmer's market, a celebration of love and resilience and the beautiful mess of choosing each other every single day. As the afternoon wore on, Sarah found herself standing apart from the crowd for a moment, watching Daniel teach Mia how to juggle apples while their friends laughed. Watching this life she'd built from absolute nothing. She thought about her mother. Wished she could be here to see this, to see that her daughter had found her way home, that the woman who'd lost everything had gained everything that mattered. I hope you're proud, Mom, Sarah whispered to the sky. I hope you can see this. I hope you know I survived. More than survived. I'm happy. I'm loved. I'm home. She felt a hand on her shoulder, turned to find an older woman, maybe 60, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to tell you something. Sarah waited. I was here 3 years ago, right over there by the donut stand. I saw the whole thing, the little girl hugging you, the man offering you kindness. I almost walked over to help, but I didn't. I was too scared, too worried about getting involved, too convinced it wasn't my problem. The woman's eyes filled with tears. I've regretted that for 3 years, wondered what happened to you, if you were okay, if that man's kindness made a difference. And today I saw the announcement about this celebration and I had to come. I had to see for myself. She reached out and squeezed Sarah's hand. You give me hope. That kindness matters. That one moment of courage can change everything, that it's never too late to start over. Thank you for letting me see how your story turned out. Sarah hugged her, this stranger who'd witnessed her lowest moment and her highest joy, who represented all the people who see suffering and don't know how to help, who carry guilt for kindness not given. After the woman walked away, Sarah felt someone else approach, turned to see Ms. Park, the CPS social worker, out of uniform, holding a cup of cider. Ms. Park, Sarah said, surprised. What are you doing here? I saw the announcement at the library. Hope you don't mind me crashing your celebration. Of course not. Would you like some cake? Actually, Ms. Park said, I came to tell you something. Something I should have told you during the investigation but couldn't because of professional boundaries. She took a breath. 15 years ago, I was you. Not exactly your situation, but close enough. Lost my husband to cancer, lost my job, lost my apartment, spent 6 months in my car with my daughter. She was 9. Sarah stared. You were homeless? Ms. Park nodded. A social worker eventually helped me get back on my feet, got me into a program, helped me go back to school. That's why I became a social worker myself, to be for others what someone was for me. She looked at Daniel and Mia juggling apples. When I got your case, I knew within 5 minutes Mia was safe, thriving, loved, but I had to follow protocol. And honestly, part of me wanted to close the case immediately because I saw myself in you, saw what I could have become if someone hadn't thrown me a lifeline. She squeezed Sarah's hand. You did something I never had the courage to do. You let a stranger help you. You trusted enough to rebuild. You're proof that the system can work when people choose kindness over judgment. Thank you, Sarah whispered, for seeing us, really seeing us. That's my job, but it's also my privilege, sus. Park walked over to Daniel and Mia, introduced herself properly this time, not as the woman who'd investigated them, but as someone who understood what they'd built and why it mattered. It's not too late, Sarah whispered, to be kind, to help, to make a difference. It's never too late. The woman nodded and walked away. But Sarah stood there feeling the weight of it, of how her story had become bigger than just her, how her pain and healing had meaning beyond her own life, how the hug Mia had offered 3 years ago had rippled outward in ways they'd never fully know. That night, after everyone had gone home and Mia was asleep, Daniel and Sarah sat on their back porch. The garden was dormant for winter, but they could imagine what it would become in spring. Could picture the tomatoes and peppers and herbs they'd plant together, the meals they'd make, the life they'd continue building one day at a time. "I have something for you," Daniel said. He pulled out a small box. Sarah opened it. Inside was a necklace, a simple silver pendant with 3 figures holding hands, a man, a woman, and a child. "This is us," Daniel said. "This is who we are. A family built from broken pieces, held together by love and courage, and one small girl's decision to hug a stranger." Sarah put the necklace on, felt the weight of it against her heart. "I love you," she said. "I love our life. I love our family. I love that we were brave enough to try again even when it was terrifying." Daniel pulled her close. "Best decision I ever made. Saying yes to that hug, taking a chance on you, believing that maybe good things could still happen." "Second best," Sarah corrected. He looked at her questioningly. "First was having a daughter who taught you how to see people, who taught you how to love, who saved both of us with her kindness." Daniel smiled. "You're right. Mia saved us all." They sat in comfortable silence, watching stars come out, feeling grateful for every hard thing that had led them here, every loss that had taught them how to hold tighter to what remained, every fear they'd survived together. Inside, Mia slept peacefully, dreaming of soccer games and spelling tests and what she'd plant in the garden come spring, dreaming the dreams of a child who felt safe and loved and certain of her place in the world. Outside, her parents held each other and remembered the journey that brought them here. The bus stop bench, the farmer's market, the garage apartment, the fights and fears and small victories that built a family from strangers, the hug that saved them all. Years would pass. Mia would grow up. Mia stood at the podium of Portland State University, 24 years old, wearing a graduation gown for her master's in social work. Her thesis, "From Bus Stops to New Beginnings: How One Act of Kindness Creates Ripples Across Generations." In the audience, Daniel sat with silver in his hair now, holding hands with Sarah, whose blonde had faded to a distinguished gray. Between them sat their son, Marcus Daniel Hartwell, age 14, named for the uncle who'd ultimately supported them through everything. "This research began 18 years ago," Mia said into the microphone. "When I was 6 years old and saw a woman crying on a bench, I didn't know I was looking at my future mother. I didn't know that simple question, 'Can I hug you?' would change 3 lives." She clicked to a slide showing the famous photograph. The 3 of them at the farmer's market, taken by a vendor who'd captured the moment Daniel first offered Sarah help. It had become the symbol of their story. "But the ripples didn't stop with us," Mia continued. "Over the past 15 years, my family has helped 17 other individuals transition from homelessness to stability, not through charity, through trades, through seeing people as full humans with skills and worth and stories that matter." Another slide. Photos of 17 faces, men, women, families, each with a caption of what they'd traded with the Hartwell family or the foundation Daniel and Sarah had started 5 years ago. Childcare for housing, carpentry skills for job training, art lessons for legal help. "The Hartwell Foundation doesn't save people," Mia said. "It connects people who need each other, just like my parents connected on a snowy December morning 18 years ago." She looked directly at Daniel and Sarah. "Dad taught me that success means nothing without purpose. Mom taught me that survival means nothing without dignity. Together, they taught me that family isn't about DNA. It's about showing up, about staying, about choosing each other when the world gives you every reason to walk away." The audience stood, applauded, but Daniel and Sarah only had eyes for their daughter. This small girl who'd grown into a woman determined to multiply the kindness she'd once offered a stranger. After the ceremony, they walked to Division Street, to the bus stop bench. There was a plaque there now, installed by the city 2 years ago. "This bench marks the spot where compassion changed lives. May all who sit here remember." One act of kindness can save the world, one person at a time. December 3rd, 2023. Sarah sat on the bench. Daniel beside her. Maya sat on the ground at their feet like she used to as a child. Marcus sprawled next to his sister. "Tell us the story again," Marcus said, even though he had heard it 1,000 times, even though he could recite it by heart. So Sarah told it. The grief, the loss, the invisibility. The moment a 6-year-old girl offered a hug and everything changed. When she finished, Mia added the epilogue, the parts that had happened since. 17 families helped, 43 individuals given second chances, 212 children who grew up watching their parents rebuild. One master's thesis, one foundation. One family that proved love could be chosen and chosen family could be everything. And one question that started it all, Daniel said, pulling Sarah close. "Can I hug you?" 3 simple words that saved 3 lives and rippled outward in ways they'd never fully measure. As the sun set over Portland, casting long shadows across Division Street, the Hartwell family sat together on the bench where it all began. Still choosing each other, still believing in second chances, still proving that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is offer kindness to a stranger and trust that love will grow from broken pieces. The end.